How do you nail your audition to land the role as an actor? How do you tell a story and captivate a director with your audition? And how do you create a compelling self-tape for a virtual audition? We'll get into all of these questions and more in this video, so let's get into how to nail the audition and land the role as an actor. If you're new here, I'm Jordan, and welcome back to the channel. This channel is all about filmmaking techniques, the philosophy of art, creative and technical workflows, and essentially what filmmaking can teach us about life. As a writer and director, I am constantly looking at a lot of different auditions and self-tapes from actors when I'm casting my own films. So I really want to break down some of the major elements that I look for in a self-tape or an audition that ultimately influence my decision to award the actor that role. Number one, make strong choices and commit. As a director, there's nothing that I love more than watching an actor who makes bold choices and truly commits to them every step of the way. Even if it's not necessarily something that I'm looking for in the character, or maybe the actor isn't right for the part, but something that really makes that actor stand out to me and that I really respect as a fellow artist is courage to take bigger swings and think outside the box and make strong choices that are unconventional and might be much different than what a lot of other actors are going to do in their audition or self-tape. This shows me that you're willing to take a leap of faith as an actor, and that's also something I'm looking for in a collaborator when we actually get to the set to shoot the project too. Go to the crazy places with me, try things, and not be afraid to fail. If I feel like they are playing it too safe or they're trying to conform to choices that they think I want, that does turn me off, since I think that they're going to be a little bit too afraid to take these bigger risks when they get on to the set. That may or may not be true, but again, the first impression is extremely important, especially since that might be the only impression you get with a self-tape or audition. You really want to make sure that no matter what you're doing, you make it memorable and something that wows everybody who watches it. Even if you don't ultimately get the part, that's something that could probably help you for future auditions too, since the casting director and the director will think of you for other parts in the future that you might even be better for. And I think that's oftentimes where the best performances shine, is when the actor is truly fearless and ready to embrace every single risk that comes their way. But really what I want to see is that an actor can be entertaining, they can be engaging and truthful, and that they can also bring magic to whatever scene they're delivering, because that's something that you cannot replicate, is if somebody wants to watch you and if you're engaging as an actor or you're not. Number two, take your time. I truly look for is that an actor has the confidence and comfortability to really settle into the audition and take their time with the entire scene. The last thing I want is an actor to rush through the lines or get through it really quickly. And especially if an actor is nervous, oftentimes this can be a tendency to move through it much quicker. Be okay to be seen and vulnerable and settled in that scene, even if there's nothing being said. Sometimes, yes, the scene does require a little bit more of an urgent energy, but I want to always make sure that I'm understanding the words that are being said. It also shows me that as an actor, you have the confidence to be able to hold that space dramatically and savor those pauses, or even create dramatic pauses that create engagement and have me leaning on the edge of my seat to want to keep hearing what you're saying. This is a good way just to build that tension, use conflicts, use peaks and valleys to be engaging and to have us continually want to watch you. It's the way that you engage the character, and your presence performing it will also rub off on the people who are watching you. So you want them to feel as comfortable as you do performing the role, since that benefits everybody. Some tips for this are to make sure to breathe, especially before you start your audition. If you're in person, then make sure to ask for a moment before you start. Is always going to benefit you. And it also allows you to think more clearly as you're delivering the lines, and it makes you less likely to forget the lines, especially if you don't have any kind of script in front of you. So just really make sure to take that moment and then go into your audition, especially if the nerves are starting to peak in the audition room. So an actor who can already guide you along the story and transport you to you watching a character, not you watching an actor trying to do a part, is truly powerful. This also shows that an actor is very in tune with the story and their part within that story. Even if it's a role that's not the biggest part, they understand that this is all part of a greater whole, and it shows that an actor is not just feeling like their part is more important than any other role within the story. They know how to fit within that story organically and not disrupt it, which again makes for the best viewing experience. It feels more organic as an audience member. You want that same thing with an actor who can elevate but also doesn't disrupt in a distracting way from the narrative at whole. Number 3, good quality for self-tapes. One thing that I think is very crucial is to have good quality on the audio and the video of your self-tape. This doesn't mean that you need the absolute best 4K camera or the best mic in the world, or that you need to go out and spend a ton of money on these things. But even if you film it on your iPhone, just make sure you position yourself with good lighting. Make sure that your expression and your face and your body movements are clear to the viewer so that they can see all the nuances of your performance. If we can't clearly see those things, it's blurry, it's hard to hear you, it's that much easier for a casting director to throw the tape out and just say, well, couldn't quite tell. Make sure you have at least some form of light on you, even if it's a ring light, or if you just put yourself near a window with natural light. If you don't have a good microphone, put yourself near the camera so at least that camera can hear you pretty clearly. And make sure to not be in an environment where it's extremely noisy if you can help it. Sometimes you can hire out different studios that'll do this for you, or they have resources to shoot it and they can provide a reader for you. What can also help is if you have any type of background, such as a blue screen or a green screen or something that's not distracting. One extra piece that I want to add to this is if there are any other creative ways you can really add more value to your self-tape, this can be something that's really helpful. So just an example could be maybe you have even more interesting lighting in your self-tape, or maybe you actually have more professional cinematography to the way you're lit, or you're in a dark room with a spotlight. One thing I do want to add though is you don't want to go too overboard with this. One thing about having a little extra nuance to your tape is that it really can help your self-tape stand out visually from somebody who's looking at hundreds of self-tapes in one day. This can still be something that makes you stand out, that might land you a future role with that same casting director or director. You also want to be careful not to be too overly clever or try to get too kitschy or cute with your audition. At the end of the day, the most important thing above all is that the acting needs to stand on its own as being strong and truthful. So don't ever forget the power of a simple tape with a great performance. Number 4, use your environment and props. But one thing I love is when actors use props or furniture or their environment or wardrobe in a creative way that really does support the character without distracting from their performance. And it can be the smallest of gestures or one symbol of body language that ultimately makes people see you as that character. And sometimes it's the subconscious energy that you already bring is going to get you that role. And don't be afraid to showcase a little bit of your own personality within that character. And sometimes that is the thing that makes it feel that much more truthful and makes us endear to watching you on screen continuously throughout an entire film. Number 5, show your personality. It's one of the coolest things when somebody is not afraid to be themselves in the audition room. And one of the other things I love is if I can see some of that person's personality brought to their character and actually utilizing it because it feels truthful. Sometimes the reason I cast an actor is because I'm intrigued by their personality just as an actor, but now they're bringing that same presence to a screen role that can really be intriguing to watch, especially in the scope of that narrative. The other thing I'm really looking at, especially for in-person auditions, is am I going to be able to work with this person? That doesn't even necessarily mean that they're the easiest to work with, but it just means I'm going to successfully be able to communicate with them. We're going to be able to have a healthy collaboration. I can give direction and they will at least listen to it or receive it. And even if they challenge it, I can see that they at least are willing to trust me and have that trust factor, especially as an actor. So there have been actors that have weeded themselves out in the room because I very much got a bad energy. I got a sense that it was going to be very difficult to be able to work with them. They weren't going to be able to take direction, or they weren't able to internalize the direction and make a change. They got locked into their prepared performance and they didn't want to change it. I also don't recommend being fake or overly cheerful if that's not what your personality is, but obviously it always helps to be pleasant or to be professional and cordial. So the last thing that I want is to add more stress to my plate when I'm dealing with a difficult actor on set, doesn't want to help me achieve the vision, and we're already behind schedule, I really want somebody who's going to add less stress to my plate, ideally. Number 6, be willing to free yourself of preparation. So one of the first things that I personally do in an audition is, after I see the actor do their first impression of the scene that they've prepared on their own, I then will give them a very different direction on the scene. And the reason I do that is I want to see how adaptable that actor is. I want to see the range of what they can play, but I also want to see if they can pivot in the moment and if they can free themselves up of the prepared version that they did, get out of their head and have trust in me, but also have faith in themselves that they can commit to another version of it in the room. So the main thing I'm looking for is an actor comfortable to free themselves and take a leap and completely commit to this new direction, since that'll show me how easily directable they are going to continue to be, especially if I cast them in the film and we go to the shoot and I want to try different ways of doing it and we have a tight schedule, which sometimes ends up being even more truthful because you didn't have time to prepare, but you're going more on impulse than anything else. Also, don't be afraid to mess up if you get a new direction. The main thing we want to see is that you're willing to go on this journey with us. It's a collaboration and it's a dialogue. Anytime a director asks an actor to go to these scary places, the actors who are willing to go there and have faith in the process are ones that always create a more fruitful connection for that director, since you see what's possible and you push each other to achieve great things together. Number 7, tell a story with your audition. Some of my favorite auditions feel like I'm already watching a story in progress, or the actor is telling me a story that I need to hear more of. So a good example of this is if there is a monologue within the audition and the actor is telling it in such a way that they are taking me on the ride and they're telling a story that I need to hear more of, especially when it ends. That is one of the greatest ways you can create engaging auditions that is going to help win you the role, because they already want to see more of you and they want to see what else you can do. That's one of the greatest things you can create for yourself, is engagement and suspense and a story that people need to hear the ending of. So a great example of this is Stephanie Shu's audition, which I'll link below, for Everything Everywhere All at Once. One of the things I want to point out in it is there is a moment where she has a monologue and she is telling it in such a cinematic way that, again, I found myself continuously leaning in and waiting on the edge of my seat to hear what every single new part of the story and word was going to be. Tell that story, make us want to see it, make us want to hang on every single word. And there's even a moment where she's in character and the director off camera asks her to sing a song that's completely unscripted. Without missing a beat, she immediately improvs, creates a whole song, and does it without ever breaking character, without fear of judging herself or taking herself out of the role. There are some other amazing auditions that I think are really good ones to study, but some of those include Rachel McAdams' audition for The Notebook, or Henry Thomas's audition for E.T. as a little boy, or Jennifer Gunning's audition as the role of Martha in the Netflix series Baby Reindeer. All of these auditions perfectly showcase a lot of the concepts that we're talking about, but each one is so captivating, it's absolutely hard to peel your eyes away from what they're doing, and it's almost impossible after you see them to see any other people who could have been selected for those roles. So that's what you want. You want your audition to be so crystal clear that you're the part, that the casting director, the producer, anyone who's a part of that process can't see anyone else possibly doing that role except for you. A lot of these auditions take the time to let the drama build. They allow the audience to come in and then they build drama and they make it progressive, so that as we continue to watch, we sense that things are escalating in the way that the best drama does structurally. You can elongate these things in your audition, you can make them more progressive. This is really going to help you stand out because it shows you have a great sense of narrative storytelling and dramatic structure, even with just the way that you play a certain scene. The other thing that's helpful is if you can really tap into the tone of what that story or that film or TV show is. If it's something that's a little bit of a unique tone, you clearly show that you understand the voice of the show and you're playing it in such a way that you already organically fit into that tone. You're gonna already know how to jump into with the proper way to play it so that it doesn't throw off the project tonally. Play the contrasts. They know when to be big, they know when to be small, and they take us on the roller coaster of, again, what makes interesting drama, in that we're constantly feeling different emotions. And so if you can make us as the casting side feel multiple different emotions within in one audition, that is a surefire way to get you well on your way to probably getting that role or at least being considered. Treat the audition like a collaboration. Treat this like a dialogue, in that it's a collaboration right away, and that immediately can shift some of the power dynamics so that instead of just them telling you what to do and you do it, you're operating more on a collaborative dialogue playing field instead of it just being, I'm going to do what you say and I'm subservient. The other thing you can do is slate in the style of your character. One other tip I heard recently that I really liked was this idea of going into an audition with the intention of giving instead of asking. Give all of yourself, and you want to give them a great performance. You want to give them a solid take on the character. And if you don't get the part, it's easier to walk away from that audition feeling better about it, knowing you gave instead of trying to just come in and take or ask for something. And as always, networking with casting directors or casting assistants or associates, meeting the people who are going to be writing the parts or casting you in the parts and making those decisions never hurts. And it's something that often will get you in the room because a casting director already has a good relationship with you. They know your type and they know what you might be good for. And continue to water these relationships, and sometimes reaching out to a casting director one week right as they're about to start a new project when they cast could be that one email that gets them to remember to send you a notification to get you in the audition for that week. That concludes how to nail your audition and land the role as an actor. So what do you think? Comment below if you have any other ideas to add to this list, or if you've used any of these techniques to land yourself roles in the future. I'd love to hear, so definitely feel free to put a comment below. Let me know if there are any other topics you want me to cover, and I will definitely make sure to cover them in a future video. If you want to see any other tips on how to break into the industry as an up-and-coming filmmaker, you can check out my recent video here about the 5 best ways to advance your film career as a newcomer. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will definitely catch you next week where we will continue to cover topics that can take your filmmaking career to the next level. So I will definitely see you then.